The church was already filled with quiet sobs when the janitor, Mr. Ellis, froze mid-step. He had been hired only to clean the hallway and set out extra tissues, nothing more. But as he passed the open casket holding America's most talked-about businesswoman, Eleanor Hart, something struck him so deeply he stopped breathing for a moment. Mr. Ellis felt his heart hammer against his ribs. No one else saw it. No one else was looking. They were too busy grieving, whispering about the end of a legacy, the fall of a billionaire who built an empire out of nothing. But he saw it. And in that instant, he knew, the woman everyone believed was dead, wasn't. Before we begin, if you love emotional storytelling, real acts of courage, and stories that remind us of the power of kindness, please make sure to subscribe to Kindness Diaries. Like the video, leave a comment, and help us share more stories that brighten the world. Eleanor Hart wasn't the kind of billionaire people adored. She was known for being cold, efficient, sharp, someone who cut deals with the precision of a surgeon. Reporters called her the Ice Queen of Wall Street, and even employees joked that she didn't have time for feelings. But the truth was different. Underneath the armor she wore, Eleanor was tired. Exhausted. Lonely. She had spent her entire life climbing, striving, winning, but never connecting. And the pressure finally caught up with her. On a flight back from a business trip, Eleanor suddenly collapsed. Her pulse became so faint that the onboard medical team declared her unresponsive. Rushed to the hospital, doctors delivered what seemed like the final blow. She had suffered a rare medical event, and though her body was still warm, there were no obvious signs of life. Her family, frantic and overwhelmed, agreed to what they believed was a medical certainty. The funeral was planned quickly, too quickly, because the world wanted answers, the media demanded statements, and her company needed closure. 63 years old, soft-spoken, widowed for nearly a decade, he took the janitorial job at the church because he liked the peace it gave him. He had seen hundreds of funerals. He respected every life equally, rich or poor, known or unknown. But something about Eleanor's stillness bothered him. As he quietly worked during the viewing, he noticed the smallest details, the warmth lingering in her skin, the faintest trace of color in her lips, the absence of the stiffness he had unfortunately witnessed many times before. And then came that slight movement of her finger, a tiny twitch, almost invisible. His mind raced. He remembered the night his wife passed. He remembered how her hand had slowly gone cold, how her fingers never twitched again. This was different. He looked around. Should he say something? Would anyone believe a janitor with a mop and a worry? But he had to try. "Excuse me," he whispered to the funeral director. I think she's alive. Please. Check her again." The director sighed with a tired irritation. "Sir," the doctors pronounced her. "We can't disrupt a billionaire's funeral because you think." "She moved," Ellis insisted. "Her hand moved. I know what I saw." The director shut him down, gently pushing him aside. Ellis felt a familiar sinking feeling, the one he felt when people dismissed him because he was just a janitor. But something inside him refused to let go. Maybe it was the memory of losing his wife. Maybe it was the belief that every life mattered. Maybe it was simply the conviction that doing nothing was worse than being wrong. So he did something no one expected. He marched straight to the front of the room, past the mourners, past the shocked family members, and shouted, "Stop. Don't close the casket. She's alive." Gasps echoed across the church. Eleanor's family stared in disbelief. Security stepped forward, unsure whether to restrain him or remove him. Cameras swung toward the disturbance. "Please," Ellis begged, his voice cracking. "Just check her pulse. One more time. If I'm wrong, I'll leave. But if I'm right." He didn't need to finish. The weight of his words hung heavy in the room. Finally, Eleanor's younger brother stepped toward the casket. With trembling hands, he touched her wrist. "Wait," he whispered. Everyone leaned in. "There's war." Doctors who had been seated in the audience rushed forward. Within seconds, the room shifted from grief to chaos, panic, hope, confusion all swirling at once. The lead physician examined her closely, then looked up with wide, shaken eyes. "She has a pulse," he said. "It's faint, but it's there." A collective gasp swept the crowd. And Mr. Ellis, the janitor nobody listened to, sank to his knees as tears filled his eyes. He had been right. He had saved her. Eleanor was rushed back to the hospital for emergency treatment. Hours passed. The world waited. Her story became national news, Billionaire found alive at own funeral. But what touched the nation most wasn't the miracle itself, it was the janitor who refused to stay silent. 3 days later, Eleanor opened her eyes. Her voice was weak, but her first question was clear. Who saved me? When they told her, she insisted on meeting him. Ellis entered her hospital room nervously, holding his worn cap in his hands. She smiled softly, something the world had never seen. Thank you, she whispered. You didn't owe me anything. But you looked closer than anyone else. Ellis shook his head. Everyone deserves someone to look closely. Her eyes filled with tears. For the first time in her life, she felt the weight of kindness, not bought, not expected, not strategic. Pure. Human. In the months that followed, Eleanor changed, not as a billionaire, but as a person. She created a foundation honoring overlooked workers, janitors, cleaners, caregivers, bus drivers, cafeteria staff, the people whose kindness often went unseen. And when asked why, she always said the same thing. Because one of them saved my life. In a world rushing too fast, where titles and status try to define worth, remember this, kindness often comes from the quietest corners, the humblest hearts. And sometimes, the people we overlook are the ones who carry the courage to save us. Spread kindness today. It costs nothing, but its impact can last a lifetime.